Ramagos here with,
This is Ashley Thornton.
and we are back for the second podcast for broadcasting class. And this time we're going to go over the NCAA Men's March Madness tournament that just rounded up on Monday. Virginia won the national championship, as most of you who watch see. But me and Ashley are going to go over our three biggest surprises in the NCAA tournament and our MVP for throughout the tournament.
Yeah, so just get things started off, I just want to go ahead and say my biggest three surprises was Villanova's early out to Purdue. I know Villanova didn't have as strong a team as they typically do, but also Purdue this year came in all cylinders firing. They were on fire nonstop. They were blowing out teams. They blew almost every team they played out until they lost out. Trevor, what would you say is like your number one, like one of the biggest surprises for you?
I'd say the biggest for me is Michigan State defeating Duke in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four.
That one hurt.
Cassius Winston gave them a double-double in the game, and Tillman, also at 19, he shot 8 from 12. But Zion, that I thought Duke would definitely make it through, and that was when I had Duke winning for sure.
I knew when it came down to it, I didn't think Duke, as a Duke fan, I can say this, I really didn't think Duke had what it took this year to go all the way. I know everyone did, but in the end, there was too many big missing pieces. Like the lack of three-point shooting, to have a consistent three-point shooter every single game that you can count on to make a basket. Duke just didn't have that one. We relied too heavily on Zion Williamson, and I think once teams saw that once you had three people on Zion and you left that wing open and you forced Duke to shoot three-pointers, it was a tough game. Like Virginia Tech beat Duke once, and then they almost beat them again twice in the tournament, and I think people saw how to play against Duke and their defense, and that kind of led to their fall down.
For your second, Ashley?
My second one was Auburn in the Final Four, making it to the Final Four as a 5 seed.
That was wow.
And how they beat UNC, who was a number 1 seed in the Sweet 16, and blew them out 80-97. I was so surprised. Like Luke May, it's been a good 4 years, but as a Duke fan, I can't say I was upset that Carolina lost, but Auburn really surprised me, even with their Final Four loss to Virginia by 1 point. That was still very kind of controversial, as people are saying, with the refs. But they even went to that second game, or that Final Four game, without their star player who tore his ACL, which that is a team. SEC basketball is on the rise, and
I like Bruce Pearl. He's a great coach. He's very genuine.
SEC basketball is something that, besides Kentucky, hasn't been on the rise. Hasn't been something that's been headline basketball. It's typically all ACC and some Big Ten schools. And to see Kentucky and
Auburn and my hometown,
LSU, Tennessee, Rick Barnes. I really hope he stays. Even though Tennessee did, I think, kind of lose out a little bit early, but all these SEC schools had phenomenal years.
SEC basketball had a little coming back.
I mean, people who are giant SEC fans have always said SEC is one of the top basketball conferences. And I'm like, you're crazy. It's always been the ACC. Come on, you have Duke, you have Carolina, you have on some years State, you have Notre Dame, you have Syracuse, you have Louisville.
The ACC is it for basketball.
Exactly.
My second one is John Morant and Murray State not making it further. After he had a great game in the first round, he had another great game in the second round, but they got absolutely rolled by Florida State, 90-62. Morant had 28 points in the game. He shot 5 for 6 from 3 and 8 from 21 from the field. ESPN announcers and everybody were talking about him being like a top 2, maybe because, of course, Zion, number 1 pick. But I see him more being like a 5 because he does have some turnover issues. But he's a pure scorer, and he's going to, let's be honest, he's just going to get a bucket if you need it. But in the game against Florida State, which they lost 90-62, Morant didn't get much help from his team either. If you take out his shots, his team shot 30% from the field, 12 from 40. And Florida State had a great game with 3 players who were in double figures. One guy also scored 9. But Ashley, your third?
My third one was honestly that UVA made it to became a champion. Tony Bennett is a coach that I really respect, and I can't even believe I left UVA as the top basketball schools that I listed in the ACC just a couple seconds ago. But that just the turnaround from the high to the low, losing in the first round to UMBC, making history that way, and then you turn around a complete polar opposite. The first ever title. And whenever I was preparing for this, I went back and I was looking at photos that Kyle Guy had posted on Twitter, and I noticed that I said to Trevor, I was like, I think it's kind of crazy and really cool. The same uniforms that UVA lost in to UMBC in the first round, they were wearing against their win against Texas Tech. And I think that was very symbolic. And the fact that Kyle Guy, who, amazing as he is, he kept that same Twitter Abby for over a year of him bent over crying in disbelief as they lost, and now it's him at the highest of highs. Yeah. So it kind of came full circle as UVA literally had to reach the lowest of lows last year in order to be able to climb up the mountain, restart in a way, find themselves. What about you, Trevor?
My third and final one was Wofford and Fletcher McGee's letdown. Also, Wofford. So they won the first round against Seton Hall. Fletcher McGee, if you don't know him, he's been touted as the best three-point shooter. Statistically, he is in college history, as he broke the record in the first round and his NCAA tournament debut after hitting his 505th three-pointer, although he did also add on 6 more in the game, threes. So that's more than Steph Curry. I mean, that's more than guys who are in the league now who are really great shooters. Don't get me wrong, I think Steph is still a better shooter than him, but he broke it. He did more than Steph did. He had more than Steph in college. McGee and Wofford then went on to face well-known Kentucky in the second round with a big chance to bounce them from the tourney, as they were missing P.J. Washington, their star player, and Fletcher McGee just disappeared. Did not make a three in the game, 0 for 12, and finished shooting 4 from 17 with only 8 points. So, and they only lost by 6 still to Kentucky. So that was I feel like they should have could have definitely won it. If he just makes even 20% of those. You know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Also going to the game, Wofford, I really didn't expect Wofford to beat Kentucky just because we've seen the elite level Kentucky can play, and Wofford also had never really been on that stage before.
Yes.
And for him to go 0-12, that really shocked me. I didn't expect him to shoot lights out.
After he broke the record in the first game.
Especially after his stellar performance in breaking that record, it was kind of shocking to see him go 0-12. And kind of where does Wofford go from here? I think they had a huge and great season to build off of it, but definitely that second round loss is something really
hurt for them.
Quickly, I want to recap that. Put my 2 cents in on the last game, the championship game. I think that both teams, I think Trevor can agree with me, they were very evenly matched.
Yes, it was a great game.
UVA had control for most of the night, and Texas Tech came back fighting not once but twice from a 10-point deficit. And in the final minutes, they had control. The offensive efficiency for both of those teams was ranked coming into that game in the top 15, and both teams shot and played really well. I think UVA made a total of 11 3-pointers, and Texas Tech made 10 3-pointers as well. Kyle Guy, you cannot say enough. Also, but I think who kind of goes unnoticed from this is one player who UVA's win wouldn't have been possible without, would have been at the 12-second mark whenever DeAndre Hunter made that 3-pointer to tie it back up. So I think he's kind of like a player who kind of went unnoticed after Kyle Guy had such a stellar performance back-to-back, making those clutch free throws to lift them over that win. Yeah. And I think that's something that such a seasoned player like Kyle Guy gets and deserves. Texas never gave up though. That was something that was really cool. It was Texas Tech, like we were talking about earlier, had a phenomenal season. They were ranked going into the preseason poll for the Big Ten, coming in 7th. And you make it to a national championship game and you're the runner-up. That's amazing. You go nuts. I see Texas Tech going nowhere but up from here.
Yeah, Matt Mooney gave Michigan State 22 in the Final Four. So They definitely have. They
I
definitely
agree.
built that program.
So I must ask, who do you think was your MVP of this tournament?
So I gave my MVP not to somebody who won or maybe even made it to the championship. I gave it to Cassius Winston from Michigan State after I saw him and play against LSU. This guy can shoot. He reminds me of Isaiah Thomas, how small he is. And then he had a double-double against Duke in the Elite Eight in the thrilling victory over the number 1 seed Duke. He had 20 points, 10 assists, and then 26 points in the first round and 16 points in the Final Four loss to Tech. So Cassius Winston from Michigan State is my MVP. What about you, Ashley?
Mine was kind of classic go-to. That would be Kyle Guy, just because you've seen just the kind of total how he was commanding performance, like leading the team, coming clutch back-to-back times. Of course, he came and showed out for the championship game, scoring 24 points. He was 8 for 15 from field goal range. He played 45 minutes of the total game. From three-pointers, he was 4 for 9. Free throws, 4 for 4 at the line. He did what he needed to get his team to give them that national championship. And that right there is a true player, a true teammate, just how much he cared and the emotions. I'm not a UVA fan by any means, but I love watching Kyle Guy play, and I always have. I even did last year. And whenever I was watching the game in the final seconds, I was pulling for UVA. Like, I was truly happy to see them win. So that's who was my MVP of the tournament.
Well, thank you for tuning in to the second podcast for Broadcast Class, and we hope to see you next time.
I'm Ashley Thornton.
And I'm Trevor Rumagos.